Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your space for black news, views, and opinions. Today is Friday, February 18th. I'm Seth London.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, the former police officer convicted of fatally shooting Daunte Wright during a traffic stop is sentenced to prison. Why the judge called it an extremely difficult decision. Meanwhile, the family of Amir Locke says farewell to their loved one. The call to action Reverend Al Sharpton demanded during his funeral. Then from pandemic to endemic, one state's governor unveils a plan to cope with COVID for the long haul.
Plus, wait, it's coming to me. We can predict the most infamous TV psychic to ever hit the airwaves is making a return, but she may not be who you thought she was. And after a long week of headlines, we just need to laugh. Comedian Guy Torrey joins Fox Soul's Black Report live to talk about his documentary and break down this week's hottest topic. So look, we have all that and so much more. It's Friday. It's our voice, it's our truth. So let's get it.
Welcome in, Soulmates. Kim Potter, the Minneapolis cop who shot and killed Daunte Wright, was sentenced to 2 years in prison this afternoon. Potter convicted in December of first and second degree manslaughter. The Wright family asked the judge to dole out the maximum 15-year sentence after giving their witness impact statements. Now, the former cop says she mistakenly fired her service weapon instead of her taser when she tried to stop the young man from driving off last year. And today in court, she made an emotional apology, speaking directly to the family.
To the family of Daunte Wright, I am so sorry that I brought the death of your son, father, brother, uncle, grandson, nephew, and the rest of your family to your home. Katie, I understand a mother's love, and I am sorry I broke your heart.
Now, Potter said she's always praying for Daunte and his family members, that he's never more than just a thought away from her. And it's clear that the judge in this case was moved by her contrition.
Officer Potter made a mistake that ended tragically. She never intended to hurt anyone. Her conduct cries out for a sentence significantly below the guidelines.
Now, Wright's mother in a statement said that this is a miscarriage of justice and that a white woman's tears trumped justice in this case. I don't think I've ever seen a judge as emotional as Judge Chu was while sentencing someone, a police officer particularly. And it's clear that, you might expect to see the Potter, the former cop, have some tears and some contrition, but the judge was crying in court.
I didn't care for either of their tears. I didn't care for Kim Potter's tears. Honestly, to even say, to utter the words that you're sorry for killing someone to their family, I couldn't even fathom waking up every single morning and just even going on feeling okay with myself after that. And the judge's tears. Honestly, was this a movie? Was this an Oscar Oscar role that we're going for here? The judge needs to be impartial. You also, her crying just honestly feels like, whose side are you on? And there were people online that were saying Kim Potter getting less than 2 years in jail for murdering somebody is way less than what people have gotten for lesser crimes. Even JT of the City Girls, she tweeted and said Kim Potter got the same time I got for fraud for murdering someone. And I just, it doesn't sit well with me.
If you think about the time here, at the end of the day, like, I just don't know if the judge did the right thing. I know it's an emotional moment, but maybe she should have kept her composure. But let's talk about Kim Potter. We talked about earlier this week. I said they should go for the lengthier sentence because we don't want this mistake to happen again, if that's what they want to call it, right? We don't want to see this continue to happen across the country. And as a parent, you cannot imagine someone leaving, your child leaving this earth before you. So no matter the words, what words she said, it cannot bring him back. And that's what's going to hurt the most. And look, she got up and she said something, which is more than what Derek Chauvin did. We can give her that. But at the end of the day, I just don't know if I like the idea of the judge and her reaction in this situation.
Go ahead.
Honestly, Romeo, that's a great point that she did say something and Derek Chauvin did. But then also, too, apologies in certain circumstances, I don't even think we need them, because I feel like it kind of added more salt onto the wound, her saying something and crying, because it doesn't bring my loved one back.
It's just hard to imagine the judge being unbiased when she's crying in court. So,
and his father said they were caught so much in their tears, they forgot that my son was killed, and that's a great point. Former President Donald Trump will have to answer questions under oath in New York's state civil investigation into his company's business practices. The judge's order also requires his eldest children, Don Jr. and Ivanka. They must also comply with subpoenas from New York Attorney General Letitia James. Trump's lawyers told the judge that having Trump sit for a civil deposition while his company is also subject of a parallel criminal investigation is improper. They say it's an attempt to get around a state law that bars prosecutors from calling someone to testify before a criminal grand jury without giving them immunity. It's always lovely that people think that Donald Trump thinks that the oath means anything to him. He has no care or desire to make sure that he is trustworthy or telling the truth under oath. He has done so much awful to our country under oath as a president that him going to be on stand, I wouldn't be surprised if he got on the stand and lied some more.
I mean, but if he lies, that's perjury now, because he has to testify under oath. So that moves this from a civil thing to a criminal thing if he was to lie. And we're just uncovering so much of what was untrue, we're learning in financial documents as this investigation continues.
Yeah, I feel like we're saying, oh, we're getting close. We're about to get him, right? And then I feel like something else is going to happen in the middle. But if you ever watch the movie Untouchables, like, to me, that is Donald Trump and his family so much. The way they carry themselves, the way they act like they just cannot be brought down. Even though they've done so much wrong and we know that, we have to prove it. I feel like at some point we can get there.
All right.
Yeah.
The Senate continues kicking the can down the road, last night approving a stopgap spending bill to fund the government through March 11th, just a few weeks from now. By a vote of 65 to 27, the short-term punt is intended to buy lawmakers some time and work out a more encompassing spending agreement. That would fund the government through the end of the fiscal year at the end of September. Initially, if they hadn't passed this, the government would have run out of money next Friday. Now, this latest agreement was delayed for several days because GOP senators demanded the chance to vote on amendments that restrict how the government spends its money.
Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Dick Durbin says he wants the Senate to confirm a Supreme Court nominee by the start of the second week in April. Durbin wants President Biden to speed up the process of the nomination. The senator's timeline aligns with the window Democrats have floated since Stephen Breyer's announcement that he would retire. Now, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki says the administration remains on track to naming a Supreme Court nominee.
The District of Columbia's Attorney General says the lawsuit against Donald Trump's presidential inaugural committee will go to trial in September. The lawsuit, it includes the Trump International Hotel and the former president's company, the Trump Organization. Attorney General Karl Racine says the Trump entities used $1.1 million to enrich the family. Racine says the Trumps overpaid for event space at the Trump Hotel for a private party for the president's children.
The Justice Department is suing Missouri over the state's new gun law that bars local police from enforcing certain federal gun measures. The Second Amendment Preservation Act is considered the most far-reaching gun rights act in the nation. The DOJ says the Missouri law is unconstitutional because it supersedes federal law. Missouri laws allows private citizens to sue cities for $50,000 if they believe their Second Amendment rights have been violated.
Congress is helping parents control the amount of time their kids spend online. Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal and Republican Marsha Blackburn are sponsoring this bill. The Kids Online Safety Act would require online platforms to provide parents with easy-to-use tools. These tools would keep them safe by limiting screen time. The bill would also require that children be protected from adult material. The bill is a result of months of congressional hearings after revelations by a Facebook whistleblower. That whistleblower showed Facebook and Instagram created algorithms that made young people, especially girls, feel bad about themselves.
After heavy criticism, Los Angeles DA says he no longer supports a ban on trying juveniles as adults. Judge Gascon says he will require prosecutors to seek special permission to object to a motion by a defendant's counsel seeking to move a case to adult court. The change comes after the case of Hannah Tubb, a transgender woman, was sentenced to 2 years in a juvenile facility for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl. At the time, Tubbs was 17 years old, but Tubbs was 19 by the time police were able to link DNA evidence to the case. When Tubbs pled guilty to the crime, she was 26. You know, a lot of people feel certain kind of way when it comes to this, when it comes to kids being tried as adults. And they're like main reason that people want to speak on how juries aren't their peers. Children could be in danger, which is obvious if they do get sentenced to time, right? And it doesn't put an end to repeat offenses. So it's almost like a 50-50 split when people feel this way about when it comes to this.
I'm not necessarily on the fence because I feel like if you are going to do the crime, you do an adult crime, you should also have to do adult time. I understand that it sounds very harsh, but when you do something that constitutes death or someone being violated or someone being hurt, I don't feel like just because you're young, if you're 17, you know what's going on. To me, I feel like you're grown enough, adult enough to know what you did was wrong. And so I don't feel like we should be giving 17, 18-year-olds or 16, whatever the age range is. I don't want to misspeak on that. But whatever that age bracket is, I don't feel like we should be trying them as children when you did an adult crime.
Yeah, it says that now under this new policy, they're going to have to get permission if they want to be able to try a juvenile as an adult. I think that there have been instances in the past where we've seen kids locked up for long periods of times for things that we might deem as forgivable. But, you know, LADA Gascon, he's got a lot of pressure on his attempts. He was seen as a progressive who was going to change the way the criminal justice system works. And there's been a lot of pushback as he tries to make these changes. We'll see if this helps any people who might have otherwise been harmed.
Keeping it in Los Angeles here, a new poll says Congresswoman Karen Bass has a very strong lead in the race for Los Angeles mayor, but a large number of voters are still undecided. The LA Times poll says that 32% of likely voters, they support Karen Bass. Billionaire businessman Rick Caruso and city councilman Kevin DeLeon, they are tied for second at 8%. Now, 40% of likely voters say they are still undecided, but there's still time for people to decide who they think they will support. The primary election day is not until June 2nd.
Can you feel the burn? A candidate in the Lone Star State is sure hoping purplish Texas does. Former presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders is endorsing civil rights attorney Lee Merritt in his run for Attorney General of the state. Merritt, who has advised the families of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and others, says he's running for office to fight injustice and to uphold civil liberties in Texas. Sanders says he's supporting Merritt because the attorney will work hard to fix the broken criminal justice system. Merritt says the state's voter suppression laws are what initially pushed him to run for office.
An African-American state senator in Florida is trying to get more Black and Latino voters to vote by mail. Senator Chevron Jones has started Operation Blackout. He hopes to register more than 40,000 people so they can vote by mail. Jones and other Democrats are concerned Florida Republicans have more registered voters in the state than Democrats. That's the first time in history that Democrats have been outnumbered. Jones says he wants more progressive voters to vote in numbers, record numbers, in the midterm elections.
The family of Amir Locke laid to rest their 22-year-old son. Locke was killed on February 2nd as police conducted a no-knock search warrant in a downtown apartment building in Minneapolis. Locke was staying on a relative's couch when he was shot by officers seconds after they entered the unit. His funeral was held at Shiloh Temple International Ministries. It's the same church where 20-year-old Daunte Wright was laid to rest. Reverend Al Sharpton, he delivered the eulogy. Now, relatives of George Floyd and Botham Jean, both of whom were killed by police, attended the funeral. Locke's family used yesterday's service to call for an end to no-knock warrants and better judgment by police. The real question is how many no-knock warrants have to go wrong across the country, which is taking the life of people of color, before they finally figure it out. They have to change this, either get rid of it altogether or change the policy of it. It has to be better. It's unfortunate that so many people have been laid to rest over the last couple of years due to something like this, and the police department have to be held accountable for it.
You know, someone on so many things that we can just, so many different ways we can look at this. Someone on Twitter said something really powerful. He said, stop calling it a tragedy as if it were an accident. This is something that absolutely could have been prevented. I do love that the other families that have had, now I don't want to call it a tragedy because I just kind of put it into the word tragedy here, but other families who have had similar instances, they came together and they're all trying to make a stance. But at the end of the day, back to what Daunte Wright's mom says, that it feels like your loved one keeps getting murdered over and over and over again. Every time there's not justice, the person dies and you have to have a funeral. Those are 2 times feeling like they've died again. Then when they don't get justice, they feel like it's just never, it's a never ending process. It's a never, you never really fully heal. And so I just feel for all the families who are going through this right now, and when will it end?
Yeah, it's a very heart-wrenching thing to be dealing with repeatedly.
Absolutely.
All right. A Metropolitan Police lieutenant is under investigation in Washington, D.C. for his possible affiliation to a white supremacy group. Now, the officer is currently on leave pending the outcome of this investigation. D.C. Metro Police Chief Robert Conti did not provide any specifics about why the officer is being investigated, but the department is cooperating with the DOJ, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. The officer is still being paid, though, currently while on leave.